some Marxist ideologies in there, and pretty much all the rest of them, like despite their color, despite their name, like even the Social Democratic Party is like neoliberal right wing, if you ask me. So we got a lot to choose from and not much to pick for. So to start at the top, which is like the party that won the election, which is like a Christian Democratic Party. Or
yeah, it's a center right party, right? It's a center right party.
No. Like they call themselves a center right party, but Friedrich Merz, which will be the next chancellor of Germany, he's pretty much a light version of Donald Trump. So he worked for BlackRock for 10 years. He's a multi-millionaire. He tried to take over the party a couple of times in the past, but failed. Then Angela Merkel, after 16 years of being the chancellor, left the party or stepped back from the party, and Friedrich Merz took over. He's pretty much a light fascist who doesn't show himself as much as he could, but he's far from being middle right or center right.
Yeah,
he's just right wing.
So the question I have for you, or I guess like the reason why I say that is because like initially the integration programs that were put forth and like the refugee acceptance that happened was directly. I mean, that was like Merkel and the Christian Democrats were blamed for that. And then they started assuming even a more right-wing position, which, by the way, yes, I understand, like, taking advantage of refugees to build your infrastructure, I feel like, is also a historically right-wing position in general, but now it's attributed to the left, even though there's understandable reason for why, your country would open your borders into for destabilized people that have lost their homes.
Yeah. So the 5-point plan is basically it's everything they aimed for the last couple of years, and now they want to make prisons at the German border. That's pretty much what they're trying to do. We do have a policy in place that'll take the prisons on the European border, but the right-wing parties in Germany want to have those prisons at the German border. So it's pretty much just like a worse version of the European policy.
It seems like, but that's what I mean. Like they saw the rise of the AfD and other, they saw a lot of right-wing mobilization, and they basically turned around and were like, no, we're going to be the ones who will oversee the militant border policies, not these fascists. And I feel like a similar thing also happened with Macron in France as well.
Yeah.
Where with the rise of the nationalist movement in France, Macron oversaw many of the same like anti-migrant policies and adopted them almost entirely and pushed for it aggressively. And if you ask these guys, they will say, oh, we're doing this because we want to stop fascism. We're capitulating to reactionary sentiment so that we can stop the fascists from gaining power and gaining momentum. That is precisely what the Democratic Party tried doing as well. But of course, they got destroyed by the Republicans in the process. And they've never really stopped trying to do that anyway.
Well, that's what they always do, right? As soon as the economy fails because of capitalism, they turn fascist. And they try to take all the blame and put them on the foreigners in Germany. And they did the same in Italy. They did the same in France, in Poland, Hungary. They did it in all the European countries, which is why all of Europe moves to the right wing. And now, pretty like even the Green Party, which is like the one of the more left wing parties, you could say. It's like they're neoliberal, but they're also like left wing. Like at least they were in the last couple of years, and they turned straight to the right wing policies against foreigners, and pretty much like they're in line with the AfD, which is what's happening right now. So we got a couple of parties, like 5 of them, who are just in line with AfD. They do the same policies. They're pretty much the same, except for being not as much anti-Europe as the AfD is. So the AfD wants like a German currency. They want the Deutsche Mark back, which is like catastrophic, which is like the only thing that the AfD does that the other parties don't do. So in Germany, we're pretty much, as a left winger in Germany, you're pretty much fucked at best.
Oh, no, I know. Right? Oh, I see it. And I think like the Israel stuff, I think perfectly demonstrated that like in terms of German politics and the widespread adoption of like very far right sentiment on this issue. But the thing that is always shocking to me is when the German government, for example, will undermine the ICC, or when the German government will, when anyone in the, when any German politician says like, oh, the European Union. Like the European Union is geared by Germany. If Germany falls, then the EU is gone. There's no more EU. Like it's the economic
we do all the
engine. Sorry, go ahead.
European politics is German politics. That's what they say in Germany. Like it's not in Brussels. It's in Paris and France. That's pretty much it. And as you said with all of the Palestinian and Israel stuff, like if I'd be in Germany, like I live in Ireland, but if I'd be in Germany, I'd be in jail. Like pretty much that's just straight up it. Like we like the left movement in Germany is just as pro-Israel as like the American right-wing movement. Like as a pro-Palestinian left-winger, you're pretty much just all over the place. I mean, I got a tattoo on my arm that says Palestinia. If I'd had that in Germany, like I'd be in jail.
That's insane. I mean, I've seen it though. I've seen it. They're fairly actively going after any kind of like mobilization that criticizes Israel. And even from what I understand, Die Linke is what we're going to be talking about today. Obviously, they gained a lot in this election, and there's some celebration that's worthy here. I think, especially as an American, it's like ridiculous for me to criticize any other country's politics in this way, because like Die Linke, even if I don't fully align with their worldview, it's like closer to me than the modern Democratic Party is. That's for sure. In that regard, I think there's some celebration that must be had here. Having said that, you can't have a conversation about Die Linke's massive gains without thinking about the shadow cast by the AFT's unimaginable gains in such a short period of time, becoming the second largest bloc. Now, of course, they're going to be, and you can describe this a little bit better for my audience, I hope, there's going to be some. They're not going to be a part of the governing coalition. The AFD is not going to be a part of the governing coalition. So even though they're effectively the second largest party, they're still completely shut out from the government. So that's praiseworthy, I guess, or that's the reason why the right wing is celebrating in Germany.
No, yes and no, because they're being used as a tool by the Christian Democratic Union. So basically, you have to understand that for whatever reason, although we're turning back to being Nazis, like we have a problem with being called a Nazi. So the policies are the same and the thinking is the same. We're as much racist as we were in the 40s, but we have a big problem with being called racist and Nazis. And so we try to do right-wing policies and politics, but without being called Nazis. Christian Democratic Union is using the AfD as a tool. Pretty much they're saying we have to work with the SPD, and if you're not doing as we please, then we're going to work together with AfD. That's what they're doing. They try. Usually we have 4 years of a government working together, and the Christian Democratic Union already says we're doing this for 1 year. So we're just restricting the time for 1 year, and we see how it goes. And if you're not doing what we want to, we work with the Nazis. This is what's happening. So they got big power. They got a huge momentum, and as a left winger in Germany, pretty much our job is to use the people that are beginning to think as a left winger, which are not many, but at least a couple of them.
So let's talk about the previous coalition. There was a three-party coalition that existed, and it was always from what I understand, it always was seemingly struggling. And now CDU in this instance is able to gain more momentum. Can you talk about the previous coalition and the FDP?
They weren't struggling. Like that's what they're saying, and people are excusing for them being struggling. But the government didn't struggle, and also the coalition didn't struggle, but the world was struggling. So we had Corona and we had the Ukraine war, and this was pretty much a major factor for our economy. And that's the reason why the government didn't do as well as they could have done without all those crises. And they did more, I think they did 70% of what they promised to do, which is more than any other government in the history of Germany did. So they pretty much did a great job, although they didn't do what I wanted them to do, but that's a whole nother level. But they did as they promised, and they did a lot better than any other German government in the past. But the right-wing movement, so Christian Democratic Union and AfD, they took all the economic crisis and said, well, that's because of the government. And people took the pill. So what are you going to do?
Yeah. I mean, for Western liberal capitalist countries,